You know the project I'm talking about, right? The one that's just a mess. It feels like it's held together with duct tape and maybe a prayer. Deadlines are slipping. People are talking past each other. But what if all that mess, all that friction, isn't actually the problem? What if it's the solution in disguise? Today, we're going to dig into how you can turn that team turmoil into project harmony.
So here's our game plan. First, we're going to talk about why conflict is pretty much inevitable. Then we'll get to the real root of the problem, which is usually clashing goals. After that, we'll cover why communication is your absolute best friend here. We'll load you up with a practical conflict resolution toolkit, and finally, we'll flip the script and see how to turn all that conflict into a genuine opportunity. Let's get into it.
Okay, first up, the inevitable project conflict. And let's be real, this is about way more than just a few awkward meetings. This stuff can seriously kill a project from the inside out.
Yeah, we tend to think of workplace conflict as, a people problem, something soft, but it's not. It's a business problem. It's a huge drain on time, money, and just brain power. I mean, think about it. People can spend hours every single week just dealing with disagreements. That's time that's not going into the project. It's this invisible anchor dragging everything down.
So to fix it, we got to know what it actually is. And here's a super simple way to think about it. Conflict usually isn't about two people just not liking each other. It's way more basic than that. It's about incompatible goals, two people wanting completely different things. Or it's about a competition for something scarce, like the budget or the top engineer's time.
And where does that friction usually pop up? Well, take a look at this list. It's almost always a breakdown in the fundamentals. Things like a messy project setup, terrible communication, nobody knowing what their job is. You get the picture. Each one of these is basically a breeding ground for those incompatible goals and resource fights we just talked about.
Which brings us to the real problem, the big secret. See, all those arguments about deadlines or features, they're just symptoms. The actual disease, the thing lurking underneath, is a conflict of goals. It's all about the hidden why behind what everyone is doing.
Okay, this definition looks a little textbooky. I know, but stick with me because this distinction is everything. A goal isn't the same as a task. Build a sign-up page is a task. The goal is make it ridiculously easy for new users to join. See the difference? So when a team is fighting over the color of a button, what they're really fighting about is their different ideas of what ridiculously easy actually means.
And this is where that disconnect usually happens. You've got the stakeholders on one side talking about the why. They want more users or a better brand image. Then you've got the engineers on the other side, focused on the how, the code, the specs, the logic. And it's in that translation from the why to the how that things get messy. Assumptions get made, and suddenly you're building something that completely misses the original point.
Let's use a super simple example, an ATM. You'd think it's straightforward, but look at the different goals at play. The bank, their number one goal is security. The customer just wants to get their cash fast. And the engineer who has to fix the thing, they care most about reliability. Now, you can't have it all, right? Making it super secure with 10 different passwords slows it down. Making it lightning fast might make it less reliable. All these goals are totally valid, but they're pulling in opposite directions.
Here's the same idea, but in a more technical-looking diagram. Don't worry, it's simple. On one side, you have a goal to serve more passengers, which you could do by making trains faster. On the other side, a goal to minimize costs. Well, there's your conflict right there. Faster trains probably mean new engines, better tracks, all of which costs a ton of money. It directly fights the goal of minimizing costs. You can't have both. It's a built-in conflict in the system.
So, if the real problem is all these hidden, clashing goals, how the heck do you find them? Well, that brings us to our next section, communication. This is the tool you use to dig all those assumptions out into the open.
I absolutely love this quote. It nails the problem perfectly. It's so easy to be vague and rambling. Being clear, being concise, that takes work. But putting in that effort up front to be crystal clear saves you from so much confusion and conflict later on.
So how do you actually do that? This framework is a great place to start. Before you send that big email or call that big meeting, just run through this checklist in your head. Who really needs to know this? What exactly do they need to know? No more, no less. When is the right time? And this is the big one. Why does it matter to them? And finally, how can I deliver it so they'll actually understand? It's simple, but it's a game changer.
Okay, but let's be honest. Even with perfect communication, conflict is still going to happen. It just will.
So what do you do when it does? That's where this next part comes in, your conflict resolution toolkit. Time to move from trying to prevent conflict to actually managing it.
The very first tool you need is the ability to sort your problems. Not all conflicts are created equal. You have to figure out if you're dealing with a Type 1 decision or a Type 2. A Type 1 decision is like walking through a one-way door. It's a huge deal and it's really hard to go back. For those, you have to slow down, think, and get a lot of input. A Type 2 decision, that's a two-way door. You can easily walk back through it if you're wrong. For those, you should just make a call and move on. Don't waste energy on something you can easily fix.
And this quote just hammers that point home. It's so important. If you treat a huge, irreversible decision like it's no big deal and just rush it, that's not being decisive, that's being irresponsible. Knowing when to slow down is just as important as knowing when to speed up.
All right, so when you're right in the middle of a disagreement, you've got 5 main strategies in your toolkit, and there's no best one. It's all about picking the right tool for the job. Sometimes you just need to withdraw and let everyone cool down. Other times, you can smooth things over by focusing on what you do agree on. Then there's compromise, where everybody gives a little. You can even force a decision if you have the authority, but use that one carefully. But the goal, the real magic bullet, is collaboration. That's where you work together to find a brilliant win-win that nobody even thought of before.
Okay, let's pull all this together. We've talked about what conflict is, where it comes from, and what tools to use. But what if we've been looking at this all wrong? What if we could stop just managing conflict and start using it?
And this, right here, is the big idea. Conflict isn't just noise. It's a signal. It's valuable data. It tells you that people are passionate and that there are different perspectives in the room that you need to hear. If you can create a space where it's safe to disagree, that's where the magic happens. That friction, that debate, that's the engine of innovation. The best ideas are almost never born from everyone agreeing right away.
Which brings us to one last really powerful question you can take with you. It's something you can ask yourself, but more importantly, it's something you can ask your team. In every project, there are things left unsaid, fears, assumptions, brilliant ideas that stay buried. This question unlocks all of that. It gives people permission to have that healthy, productive conflict that we've been talking about. So think about it for your own team. What am I not saying that needs to be said?